Continuing our reading in Ragweed and Poppy by Avi. Today is a short chapter, chapter 12, and a longer chapter, chapter 13. Chapter 12, Who Called? Double dang dirty, said Ragweed. That bubble-brained baby raccoon has come after me. In haste, he looked about, saw a thick clump of tall grass at the far edge of the clearing, and darted into its midst. Once there, he pried apart some stalks and peered out. Lotar burst out of the bushes, rushing into the middle of the clearing. He stood up on his hind legs and looked all around. "Ragweed!" he called. "Where are you? It's me, Lotar, your best friend. I'm really sorry my mama threw you away. I want to play with you. Where'd you go? Where are you? Are you near?" Ragweed stayed hidden. Lotar took a few more steps forward when he suddenly spied the snake skin. He halted and goggled at it. "Yipes!" he cried. I think it's a snake." He raced off into the meadow until Ragweed lost sight of him. Ragweed waited, wondering where the mother raccoon was. He was sure she would be close behind. Sure enough, the big mother rushed into the clearing. "Lotar!" she called. "Come back! Do you hear me? Right now! I need you to stop! It's time for your nap!" When Lotar did not return, the mother raccoon continued to lumber after her youngster. "Lotar, listen to me! I want you to come back now!" But she went on until she, like Lotar, was completely out of sight. Ragweed gazed after them. Raccoons, porcupines, traps, snakes, and people, he thought. How did that Poppy ever get across all this? Were her eyes closed all the way? She's either a lot stupider or braver than I thought. Making sure that the raccoons were going in a direction different from the one he wanted to go, Ragweed dashed across the clearing and continued going across Long Meadow. "Get yourself to that gray house," he mumbled. "Tell them about Poppy, and then get your tail somewhere else." Yes, he thought as he continued running. Get absolutely, quickly, totally, finally out of here. Chapter 13. Glitter Creek and Gray House. Moving as fast as he could, Ragweed continued running through Long Meadow. It didn't take long before he came upon a rapidly moving creek. Its bright waters were tossing and turning, with a constant splash and bubble, frothing up small pillows of white foam. Ragweed had little doubt it was what Poppy had called Glitter Creek. The name certainly fit, but at the place where he had reached the flowing water, it was too wide and probably too deep to cross. He scurried on, moving along the moist bank until he found a place where the creek seemed narrowest. Sure enough, beyond the water, he could see what appeared to be an apple orchard. Ragweed recalled that Poppy had mentioned that. Looking further on, Ragweed could make out an old human house which he supposed was where Poppy's family lived, what they called Gray House. It was all as Poppy had told him. Almost done, Ragweed told himself. But first he needed to cross the creek. He surveyed the flowing waters. The creek was some 7 feet across, still far too wide and rapid for him to swim across. For all he could tell, the water might be deep here too, but the creek was tumbling around numerous wet and moss-covered rocks that poked up through the surface. Poppy had been right. To get across, he would have to leap from rock to rock. He studied the stones with care, plotting a path across. It would require, he decided, some 15 jumps. Most hops looked easy. 1 or 2 might be a stretch. He was confident he could do it. He took his stand on the creek's edge close enough so that the water tickled his front toes. Tensing his leg muscles, he took a bound and landed squarely on the first rock, barely pausing, using his momentum to help. He jumped again and secured his footing on the next stone. On he went, leaping from rock to rock. On the 10th, he landed poorly, wobbled, almost fell, but managed to steady himself by holding his front paws wide to the side and his tail straight behind him. Steady, steady, he told himself. To his relief, he kept his place and did not fall. He went on. Within moments, he was on the far side of the creek, safe. Cool, he told himself. I'm good. Hey, nothing I can't do. Almost there and out of here. Next stop, that orchard. Go, dude. He hurried on, wending his way among the apple trees, all of them old and twisted. Berry bushes were plentiful, as were many different flowers. Overhead, different kinds of birds flew past. Decent place, thought Ragweed. Once beyond the orchard, he passed a rusty water pump on a concrete pedestal. Then right before him stood the house, which he could have no doubt was a human nest. Looking as if it was about to collapse, it hardly seemed a place that humans would live. The roof, which had many shingles missing, and with other shingles as curly as late summer leaves, drooped in the middle, with both ends higher like the bowed back of an old horse. As for windows, only a few had glass, the rest had empty spaces. One window was filled with dust-coated cobweb threads, nor could Ragweed see a door, simply an empty frame on an uneven porch, which in turn was surrounded by a warped railing. The building's wood-sided walls were a dull gray. Great mouse house, Ragweed acknowledged. He also had little doubt that this was where Poppy lived, the one she had called Gray House. Belatedly, he noticed that a small red flag was sticking out from one of the roof ends. He wondered what that meant. He also noticed that beyond the house, on the side of the road, was a red and white sign, which read, House for sale, Amperville Real Estate. Call Jack Saunderson, 555-3367. Ragweed saw no humans, but he did see mice, a large crowd of them milling about in front of the house. At a glance, he could see that they were all deer mice like Poppy, and they were playing, eating, and talking to one another with constant squeaks and chatter. Ragweed considered the crowd for a moment. If these mice are as nice as Poppy said they'd be, telling them about her troubles shouldn't take long and she'll get help quickly. Boldly, Ragweed marched forward, now and again pausing to stand tall so he could see and be seen. But as he approached the house and was noticed, the crowd of mice stopped everything they were doing and in complete stony silence watched intently as he drew near. It was as if 100 eyes were fixed on him. The only thing that moved was their noses, which quivered as if smelling him, and not at all caring for the smell. Not one mouse spoke, much less called out an open-hearted greeting, nor did he see so much as a gesture of friendly welcome. Ragweed was taken aback. This was not a friendly reception. And I thought Poppy said these mice were nice. Something's not right. He drew nearer and then called out, Yo, dudes! Not a single mouse replied. Instead, they continued to stand perfectly still and stare at Ragweed as if he were the strangest creature they had ever seen. This is not, he thought, an open-hearted place. Standing still, he had half a mind to turn about and walk away. Goodbye, Poppy. Nah. They need to, learn about her. So he waited, hoping someone would come forward. After a few painfully long silent moments, during which time the crowd of mice merely gawked at him, an old skinny mouse with a drooping gray whiskers and tired eyes stepped forward. He did not come close. May I help you? He said stiffly. To Ragweed's ears, the way the words were spoken seemed to say, I don't want to help you. Nonetheless, Ragweed held out a paw. The name's Ragweed. The old mouse kept his distance. After a few stony moments, he said, May I ask what kind of mouse you are? Me? Said Ragweed, surprised by the question and putting a paw to his chest to make sure the old mouse was talking to him. I'm a golden mouse. Why are you asking? You have, some problem with golden mice? I don't believe I've ever seen your kind before. Are you from around here? Nope. Where then? Back there somewhere, by the brook. Not exactly sure where. Too complicated. I see, said the old mouse, and his unfriendly face made it clear he did not see. And may I ask, the old mouse went on, what brings you to Gray House? Dude, said Ragweed with growing annoyance. I'm bringing a message from someone who said she lives here. And whom might that be? Calls herself Poppy. Poppy? Cried the mouse, showing emotion for the first time. Moreover, the name caused a stir among the crowd of gaping mice, bringing much whispering among them, as Ragweed heard Poppy's name being repeated over and over again. Obviously, they knew her. Well, yes, said the old mouse. Poppy. She has been missing a few days. We've been worried about her. That's why we put up the red flag. Have you any idea where she is? Yeah, she's been caught in a trap, a human trap. A trap? The word was also repeated with considerable alarm among the mice. Some of the mice even drew closer to Ragweed as if now, wanting to hear what he might say. Is Poppy hurt? Asked the old mouse. No, but she can't get out of the thing. And where is she? Ragweed, frustrated by all the questions, which lacked friendliness, made a waving motion. Down by the old meadow that runs along the forest. I can tell you where, but how about, instead of questions, you gather up a gang and go get her free? I'm afraid we don't do things that way, said the mouse. You'll need to speak to Lungwort first. Lungwort, Ragweed remembered, was Poppy's father. Talk to anyone, pal, said Ragweed. Except, I think you might want to ratchet up the rescue. She's not bunking down in what I'd call a bubble bath. No saying what might happen. What do you mean? There are humans where she is. That stirred the crowd of mice anew. There have been humans visiting here, said the old mouse. Are they the same ones? No idea, replied Ragweed. For your information, my name is Plum, said the old mouse. Please follow me. I shall take you to Lungwort. He waved a paw, and the throng of mice divided in two, leaving a narrow lane for passage. Amidst silent, inquisitive, and even hostile stares, Plum led Ragweed down the constricted way, across the cluttered and crowded porch of Grey House, through the open doorway and inside a large room. Once there, Ragweed saw many more mice. When he appeared, they too stopped, whatever they were doing, and stared at him. Some of the outside mice came up and stood by the doorway and peered in as if wanting to see what was going to happen. Surrounded by all these unfriendly mice, Ragweed felt more and more awkward. Call me done and deal me out, he thought. This way, said Plum. He led Ragweed past an old straw hat and then up to a large, shabby farmer's boot that lay on its side. In front of the open end of the boot was a striped curtain made from a plaid necktie, the kind humans wear. Plum pulled the curtain aside and shouted down into the boot. A stranger here to see Lungwort. Says he knows where Poppy is. He turned to Ragweed and in a grave voice whispered, You'll have to speak to sweet Cicely first. Who's she? Poppy's mother. Oh, yeah, right. I'm cool. I'll talk to anyone. The curtain shifted and a mouse poked her head out from inside the boot. It was sweet Cicely. She was a small mouse with soft, pale, half-lidded eyes. As she looked out from the boot, she considered Ragweed with distaste, then flicked an ear with one of her paws. It seemed to be a gesture of unease. Yes, Plum? She asked softly. Have we received some news about Poppy? No, this mouse, said Plum. Says he knows where she is. Sweet Cicely regarded Ragweed for a long moment, all the while flicking an ear. She did not smile. Who? She finally managed to say in a whispery voice. Are you? Name's Ragweed. I was strolling along the forest edge when I came across Poppy. She's your daughter, right? Anyway, I'm guessing she's one of them. Thing is, she's caught herself in a human trap and can't get out. And that thing is nasty as nest of needles. Oh dear, said sweet Cicely as she flicked an ear. I wouldn't know anything about that. How did Poppy ever do such a thing? Said she wandered in. Wandered? Sweet Cicely made a clutching sound. It was a small sound, but it struck Ragweed's ears like big criticism. That's so like Poppy. she doesn't always look where she's going. Lately, we've been visited by humans, so that's hardly wise. We're worried she might come and they might come and live here. No idea, said Ragweed. All I can tell you is that Poppy worked to get herself free but couldn't. I tried to help. Not enough paws. So she asked me to come here so that a gang of you are family, right? Could help. Get enough and you should be able to spring her out. No big problem. Sweet Cicely continued to gaze at Ragweed as if she found it hard to absorb the news. Then she said, "You'll have to speak to her father, Lungwort. He's the one that manages this family." "Hey, I don't care who I speak to," cried Ragweed, increasingly exasperated. "Only it seems to me you need to shake the dust, hit the road, and pound a path so you can do some heavy lifting. That is, if you want to pop Poppy. Got my meaning?" Sweet Cicely studied Ragweed with wide-eyed bewilderment, but made no reply other than to flick an ear. Then she said, "What kind of mouse are you?" "Golden mouse. Hey, how come you all keep asking that? Does it matter?" We don't see strangers often. It's always wise to be careful. And now, with those humans lurking about." "Just trying to help," Ragweed interrupted. Come along. Lungwort is our leader. He always knows what to do." And with those words, Sweet Cicely pulled the curtain aside and beckoned Ragweed to follow. And that's the end of chapter 13.